Hey guys! All right, let's go ahead and look at what we're doing for grammar today. So, just to review from yesterday, we reviewed what our figurative language examples are. We've got a hyperbole, extreme exaggeration, imagery, painting a picture in your mind using the five senses. A lot of authors do it in fiction. Simile, a comparison of two unalike things using the words like or as. A metaphor comparing two unalike things directly without using like or as. Onomatopoeia, sound words, buzz, tap, etc. Personification, person, giving person or human characteristics to non-human things. Alliteration, repetition of beginning consonant sounds. Slimy slugs, slurp, slushies. Idioms are common phrases that we say. It's raining cats and dogs that don't actually mean what they say, but they're common. We say them a lot. And then connotative language, like using the word home to help the reader understand that someone has a connection emotionally to a place instead of the word house, okay? All right, now we know that. We're going to click on slide 17. Slide 16 is where you're seeing this video right now. And instead of putting all of the standards there, I'm just making you aware of this. They're down here in the author's notes, okay? We're understanding figurative language, word relationships, and nuances of word meanings. All right, so let's put it in perspective of a testing situation. So on the next three slides, 17, 18, and 19, I've got a passage. It's nonfiction. It's about bats, interestingly enough. We're going to use the strategy that I taught you guys yesterday. I'm going to do it. You don't actually have to do it right now, okay? Now, whenever I get back, we're going to organize our binders and stuff like that, and then we'll start doing them more together. All right? So you do not have to do this. You're watching me do it, okay? All right, so we've got them split up by paragraphs. Even though the next two slides have a few paragraphs on them, I have them split up, all right? So just like we did yesterday, preview the question. Question number one, what did the author mean by? We're going to see that a lot whenever we're in a testing situation with figurative language. What did the author mean by saying that D'Angeli lives with vampires? A, he studies bats. B, he lives with monsters. C, he watches a lot of vampire movies. D, he collects Dracula posters. I think I kind of know where this is going. But I'm going to write down in my notes, vampire? Question mark. This is a silly one in my opinion. Whoops. Because, I mean, a lot of those answer choices, like B, C, and D, are probably a little silly if we're looking at what he's talking about. On the ACT Aspire, they usually have answer choices that could all kind of fit. All right, I'm going to go to slide 18, look at my second question. D'Angeli says, where else can you see a bat in front of your face? This is an ellipses. See the dot, dot, dot? That's called an ellipses. I'm going to write it down and let you see it. Ellipses. That means to continue if it's at the end of a sentence, but whenever you see it in the middle right here, it means that there was something in the middle. It was most likely a lot longer. The sentence was probably 2-3 sentences maybe. And the author doesn't want to type all of this, the author of this question. Instead, they put the dot, dot, dot so that whenever you go back into the text to find it, you can see it, and then they expect you to read the rest of it, okay? All right, but what does he mean by where else can you see a bat in front of your face? The phrase in front of your face means A, near your forehead, B, in real life, C, close to your nose, D, not behind you. I'm going to put front of face. Now, some of these we can probably think we know the answer to. For example, without reading the passage, in front of your face means probably like in real life, I would think, since we're looking at figurative language, but we're not going to answer that yet until we read. 19, slide 19, question 3. What does the author mean by bat? Bats often get a bad reputation. A, bats get sick easily. B, people everywhere love bats. C, people think bad things about bats. D, bats make great pets. I'm going to say bad rep, question mark. Okay. So I've previewed my questions and I've written down just some small notes so that it can be in my mind as I read. I'm back on slide 17. I'm going to draw the 9 with the line, paragraph symbol 1. I'm going to read it, jot down what it's mainly about. Joseph D'Angeli lives with vampires. Vampire bats, that is. Bats. He feeds bats and studies their habits. D'Angeli is a chip. Okay, I'm going to look at this because I ain't going to get it right if I just read it. Chiroptologist. Chiroptologist. Or a scientist who studies bats. Now, in 4th grade, sometimes they ask you these. In 5th grade, they might ask you, what is a chiroptologist? And you would have to look. Look, there's a comma. Remember, that's a context clue signifier. There's a comma, meaning there's probably going to be a definition after it. Or a scientist. The word or is also a symbol. Or a scientist who studies bats. So now we know a cool fancy word. We're going to learn what ologist means too in phonics as we continue into structures. D'Angeli is a chiroptologist. So that means somebody who studies bats, all right? Now, do you think that we could probably write it down real quick? Oh, yeah. I'm going to put vampire bats as my main point. It's kind of about the dude D'Angeli, how he is a chiroptologist, who is someone who studies bats and he lives with vampire bats. So let's look at the question. We can answer it now since it's on the same slide. What did the author mean by saying that D'Angeli lives with vampires? I want you to pause the video, highlight which one you think is correct, okay? I'm not going to tell you. We're going to see if you can do this. I know you can. Pause the video, highlight which one you think is correct, and then unpause and move to slide 18. Okay, you are played or press played. Now we're going to look at the next one. If I look back at my notes, I've got front of face, question mark. This is a 2-paragraph section, so I'm going to draw my line with a 9. 9 with a line, 2. I'm going to read it, write my note. The weekend before Halloween, D'Angeli is bringing his bats to the Chiller Theater's Toy Model, a film expo in Secaucus, New Jersey, maybe? It's the country's largest horror and science fiction convention. Cool. So I'm going to write down the main point of that paragraph. I would love to go to that. He brings bats to horror convention. I want to go. That is cool. Draw my 9 with a line 3. I'm going to put this in front so you can see. Let's read it. The convention gives me a chance to talk to true bat lovers and to people who haven't experienced bats up close. D'Angeli told WR News, where else can you see a bat with a 3 to 4 foot wingspan in front of your face? All right, let's think about it. Since it's on the same page, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's write it down. What's the main point or the main idea of this paragraph? People can see bats up close at convention. It's basically what D'Angeli is saying. All right, so that's my note. I know it's an extra step, but I promise as we practice this, it will help your comprehension, meaning your memory of what you're reading. Okay, let's answer this question. D'Angeli says, where else can you see a bat in front of your face? The phrase in front of your face means, what does he actually mean? I want you to highlight the answer that you think is correct. All right. If you need to, pause it, highlight whatever you need to highlight, A, B, C, or D, whichever one you think is correct, and then move to slide 19 once you're done. All right, 19. We've got paragraphs 4 and 5. So I'm going to draw my 9 with a line 4, and I'm going to read it. Bats often get a bad reputation. This is what my question's about. I wrote that down for my question note for number 3. A reputation refers to the way people think of something. We know that. But D'Angeli says there is a lot to like about the nocturnal, active at night animals. Bats, for example, help the environment. Many valuable bat species eat crops. Eat crop-damaging insects, he says. Let's write that down on our paragraph 4 note. They do good things like eat crop-damaging insects. And that is true. No, I think I know my answer, so we've already read it. Let's go ahead and answer this question. What does the author mean by bats often get a bad reputation? This one might be a harder one for you guys. I think that you'll be good with it, but it is a little more tricky. I want you to highlight A, B, C, or D, whichever one you think is correct. You can pause the video if you need to. Then we're going to read our 5th paragraph anyways, even though we finished the questions. I'm going to draw my 9 with a line 5. D'Angeli has been studying bats since he was a teenager. What's his advice for students interested in studying winged creatures? Get some rest. You're going to be up late if you want to study bats. That's funny because they're nocturnal. That's cute. It's actually probably good advice. Get rest if you want to study bats because they're nocturnal. I'm going to show you my notes. The only thing I forgot to do was put the title, but there was no title. So I'm going to write Vampire Bats at the top. You did not have to do this, okay? But this is what you'll see figurative language used as, like we did with our cold read yesterday, most typically in testing. Did they ever ask us, what is the idiom bats often get a bad reputation mean? Or what does in front of your face mean? What type of figurative language is it? Is in front of your face a metaphor? Did they ever ask us that? No, they didn't, because they're not going to in 5th grade. 5th grade, they expect you to know what the author means by the use of the metaphor, by the use of the simile, personification, etc. Okay? All right, we will practice again tomorrow. I will be back, so I'll be able to lead you in discussion. I will still be filming for those of you that are at home, quarantined, or are virtual learners this year, okay? Before we leave, I'll tell you a funny bat story. Because doing virtual and having to film and not be there after the 3rd day of school hinders us being able to get to know each other, okay? So before we moved here, my husband and myself, before we had our 2 children, I was pregnant with our first Truman. So this was about 3 years ago. We moved to Arkansas from Louisiana. Well, in that time, Coach Goulart loved, and he still does, loves Jeeps. He's always wanted a Jeep, and we needed to get a new car. So the summer we moved here, he bought a Jeep, and it was a really cool, fun Jeep. We were living with my parents, who live on 80 acres in Sheridan, Arkansas, and all of the acreage isn't like it is here, how it's all farmland. It's trees, woods, forest, hills, stuff like that. So it was at night, and Coach Goulart has always wanted to take the top off of his Jeep since he's bought it, and it was at night, so we were like, okay, fine. I mean, it wasn't too hot, so I was like, that's fine. Let's just go into town, and we can get ice cream or something, and then we can drive back with the top off so that we can see what it's like. So we are driving with the top off and the doors off. Everything. So this is like a real Jeep with all of the stuff off of it, like when you would go mudding in or something. And we get like maybe a mile up the road and we're going 60 miles per hour because it's a highway. And what happens? But a giant bat flies in to the open Jeep and bats its wings around all over the place. And we screamed and screamed and screamed. And it finally flew out. And then we turned around and drove home and put the top and all of the doors back on. So that was the one and only time we rode with the Jeep with the top and the doors off because a huge bat flew in at night. So that's my bat story. If you happen to have any interesting bat stories, save them and we'll talk about them later. I will see you guys tomorrow. I cannot wait. Bye.